Hi, I'm Anthony Quinlan. I play Gilly Roach in Hollyoaks, a character who is currently at the centre of a rape-related storyline. Today, I'm going to be speaking to DCI Ben Snuggs about the Don't Cross the Line campaign. And as well as discussing the issue of consent, I'm hoping to find out more about the real-life rape cases and what it is that makes men cross the line. So, DCI Ben Snuggs, can you tell me exactly what it is the Don't Cross the Line campaign actually involves?
Yeah, the Don't Cross the Line campaign is about educating, really, young men predominantly, about what rape is, what consent is in rape, and the consequences of sexual intercourse, sexual activity where there is not consent.
Okay. And why is the campaign focused on men?
Well, under the law, it's only men who can commit the act of rape. And whilst traditionally lots of police campaigns have focused on safeguarding and protecting typically young women, keeping safe and that kind of thing, actually there's been very little to target young men and make them aware of their responsibilities and the implications and the consequences of sexual encounters which are non-consensual in terms of both parties understanding what it's all about and agreeing to what happens.
So, basically, can you just clarify for everyone out there what actual consent is?
Yeah, consent is got to be active. So it involves doing something and making sure that something is in place. Like, is the person that you're about to have sex with free and able and capable of making a decision about what's about to take place?
Yeah.
So if they're too drunk to consent, then that isn't consent.
Yeah.
If they've taken drugs and are not in a position to kind of know where their surroundings are or what they're doing or who they're with, then that cannot be consent. And so they need to be clear that, there's an agreement there.
How does a man know if a woman has actually consented then?
Well, consent is what we would refer to as being active consent.
Right.
Consent, it must involve both people being free and capable of making a decision.
Yeah.
So what that means is that they, if they're influenced, for example, by drink or drugs, to the extent that they are not in a position to be able to give consent, then that's not proper consent.
Right.
It needs to be something that is active.
Yeah.
And whilst that might not involve a discussion,
and obviously not under the influence of anything.
That's right. It's got both parties have got to be clear, and where they're not clear, kind of anything less than a yes is a no, is our message.
I think that's where the difficulties arise, yeah, of course. So, basically, I mean, you pretty much touched on that then. The next question was, how can you make sure you get consent? Obviously, without the alcohol, make sure both parties are completely up for the situation, in.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, that is a common occurrence is, both people involved who have had sex that night have got so drunk that neither party really can be sure that they've consented to each other, and more difficultly than the following day, it's difficult in terms of investigating to actually understand what's gone on, because the people involved can't remember what's gone on to the extent that might be required. And so that it's very difficult, obviously tragic and devastating at the time of the offence, and then kind of doubly difficult to investigate effectively thereafter.
What if the female first says yes and then she changes her mind once they've already started with the sexual consent? I mean, if she consented first of all, taking part in intercourse, and then therefore she changes her mind halfway through, what's the issue then? Well,
consent can be withdrawn at any time.
Right.
So, there can be consent to certain activity, certain sexual activity, and there could be initial consent to sexual intercourse.
Yeah.
But if that consent is withdrawn, at that point it is withdrawn.
Right.
And so that then makes it very clear. If something then continues thereafter, that is an offence of rape. So it is all about the consent, and not only the consent being given, but both parties being aware of that consent.
And it with being held throughout as well, of course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what sort of advice can you give people to make sure that they don't cross the line?
Really, consent is active. It needs to be something that sexual intercourse and sexual activity needs to be something that both parties are clear, they both agree to at the time.
Yeah.
And if that's in place, then that's then there can be no offence of rape. Obviously, it is consensual sexual activity. The key messages really around this, from a policing point of view, are people get themselves into situations where they reduce the likelihood of them being able to give good consent because they're either too drunk or they've had drink or drugs. And there's a risk there, there's a real risk then that you do something that you don't consent to, or you go along with something that actually you're not consenting to, and once it's happened, it's too late.
Yeah, there's no going back then, is there?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That basically covers all the questions. So I hope all you guys out there have got the message. DCI Ben Snuggs, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. So the message for young men is to understand that for consent, you both have to be absolutely certain with what is about to happen. If yourself or the person you're with is under the influence of alcohol or drugs, then consent is not valid, even if you've been intimate before. If you're not clear in any way, shape or form about the consent, then it is classed as rape. If you or anyone else has been affected by this storyline, you can find more help and details at e4.com/Hollyoaks. Also, if you want to find more information out about the Don't Cross the Line campaign, you can find that at don'tcrosstheline.co.uk.